Hello, everyone, and welcome to Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloya, Channels Television's studio in Abuja, the nation's capital. The drama in the National Assembly continued, and the disagreements got heated today to the extent that some opposition members could no longer withstand the heat and walked out of the room. We will dwell more on that shortly. Let's perhaps begin the conversation and, well, where do we begin from? Let me tell you, the debate over the Electoral Act Amendment Bill has torn the Nigerian Parliament apart, dividing the lawmakers along party and ethnic lines. The Senate yesterday put a clause on the bill to a vote, especially on the controversial portion of electronic transmission of election results. The senators disagreed on the matter very intensely. Yesterday, in the House of Reps, it was very intense too. Let me remind you of what happened in the House of Representatives yesterday, because some lawmakers actually put out their practice of some of what they've been practicing in the gym. Take a listen.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that the report of the Committee of the Whole as reported be adopted.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I move for the adoption of the consideration of reports. I so move, Mr. Speaker. Who's the player?
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. That's happy.
Angama.
That was yesterday, but the intensity of what you saw yesterday was also transmitted. Perhaps things simmered today, and not as much as we saw blood boiled yesterday on the floor of the Green Chambers when some lawmakers exchanged fisticuffs there. But today, opposition lawmakers in the House of Representatives, led by the minority leader, Honorable Ndudi Elumelu, today staged a walkout as the House passed the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. The lawmakers walked out on the consideration of the bill after the Deputy Speaker insisted that Clause 52 of the bill, which deals with electronic transmission of result, had been considered and adopted the previous day. Let me allow you, if they can roll back that so that you can hear what led to the walkout. Please roll it back so that viewers can get a sense of what really happened. Take a listen to it.
You are entitled to our opinion, and that's the meaning of democracy. Thank you very much. We are grateful.
Point of order.
Leader, don't title. No, amendment of the...
Point of order.
Already, what is the point of order, sir?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Chairman. Leader.
I didn't mention that.
Clause 52 is totally different from other clauses where people wanted to make an amendment. The reason why I'm saying this is that members have been trying to say that that clause that was carried was inappropriate and that it was never carried.
Well,
and we cannot sit.
Let me beg of you, sir.
We cannot sit on this floor.
Let me beg of you, sir.
And allow that inappropriate action to be taken.
Please,
so I'm calling on my colleagues that if that is the case, that they have carried it and waiting for us to do a rescission, because it was never carried. So the issue of rescission
no, sir.
will not even arise. I will advise that we leave the chamber. We are not part of it.
Well, if you are saying you are not part of it, it's a different entirely. You are entitled to our opinion, and that's the meaning of democracy. Thank you very much. We are grateful. Don't title. No, amendment of the. Already. What is the point of order, sir?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman.
Well, there you see it there. Well, that's it looks similar, but it's not exactly the same thing because the scenarios from yesterday and today are totally different. I'll allow you to listen to the minority leader when he stepped out of the chamber, and there was an interview with my colleague Terry Kumi afterwards. But first, let's take a look at your political roundup stories.
The opposition People's Democratic Party has made true to its threat of challenging the defection of Zamfara State Governor Bello Matawalle from the PDP to the APC. The Federal High Court in Abuja today heard the case and has adjourned the suit seeking to remove the Zamfara State Governor Bello Matawalle for defecting from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives Congress. The suit was filed on June the 17th this year by two PDP members from Zamfara State, Sani Kaura Ahmed and Abubakar Mohammed. At the resumption of proceedings, the presiding judge ordered the plaintiffs to file and exchange court processes with the defendants within 7 days. The court adjourned the case till September the 29th for mention. The factional national chairman of the All Progressive Grand Alliance, APGA, Chief Victor Oye, has hit at INEC over the state over the primary and the candidate of the party for the November governorship election. Chief Oye insists Judo Keke has never been a member of APGA, alleging that the forum shunned court orders to disrupt the process. Oye has warned that INEC needs to respect the rule of law and protect the sanctity of democracy. INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner in Bauchi State, Ibrahim Abdullahi, says all is set in the state for the commencement of the physical voter registration exercise scheduled to begin on Monday. He also noted that about 3,000 eligible voters in the state have been enrolled in the ongoing online voter registration exercise. And the People's Democratic Party in Adamawa has held a stakeholders meeting in Yola, the state capital, to deliberate the ongoing e-registration of the party and that of the Independent National Electoral Commission in the country. The state chairman of the PDP, Barrister Tahir Shehu, observed that the turnout for the ongoing e-registration by INEC in Adamawa State was not encouraging, hence the need for all eligible party supporters to come out and get registered.
If such conditions persist, the registrants may will be advised to avail the date for physical registration, which is going to be on the 19th of this month, as stated earlier.
All right, then. So let's get back to the issue of what happened today on the floor of the House. I told you that I'll allow you to listen to the minority leader, Honorable Undudi Elumelu, just after they took that walkout. This is the position of the opposition party on today's incident. Take a listen to him.
We staged a walkout because yesterday in the chamber we agreed when we could not conclude on clause 52. We agreed that we should invite INEC, invite NCC to collaborate as to the fact that results can be transmitted in every community in this country. Electronically. Now, upon resuming today, we expected that should follow. First of all, they deprived INEC from coming, and they claimed that INEC should not come because it will be seen that INEC is taking a position. But the same INEC came at the public hearing and attested to the fact that they can work with electronically transmitting results. That's one. Two, the NCC, if you recall, I asked the man, because he was behaving as if he was not there for us. And I asked him, is it that this is how you speak, or you are pretending to speak like this? Haven't been under oath. I was shouted down by them. Then thirdly, that same clause 52, that even Speaker himself upon commencement announced that we should suspend it and go to other clauses. The Deputy Speaker, who has shown that he's not democratic, he's not a Democrat, decided to ignore that, decided to ignore the whole House, and went ahead to start counting from clause 54 against what we had agreed. Eventually, when the House was able to be calmed by Mr. Speaker, and of course the leaders of the opposition and other progressives who believe that this is an injustice, now decided that we should calm down and let us suspend the 52. Having carried the other ones, they will now, I stood up to ask him, are you ready for us to now go back to section clause 52 and decide on it, either to divide the House or by voting based on submission of INEC. Apart from based on submission of INEC, as to the effect that we hadn't even taken it, he was now saying that we should be guided by the rules. And being guided by the rules means to rescission, which in effect that we should admit that it was carried when it was never carried. Well, we are against it, and as far as we are concerned, that session has not been taken. And we will continue like this, even when we resume in the next assembly, in the next section, we will disrupt the city until our voices are heard.
Well, the minority leader in the House of Representatives, Honorable Undudi Elumelu. Well, the opposition lawmakers insisted that the clause had not been considered, clause 52, and there was no need for a rescission as stated by the Deputy Speaker. So, let's get back to the conversation. There are several issues. On top of this matter is the technical and constitutional matter. I have joining me tonight the majority leader on the House of Representatives, Honorable Alhassan Adodogua. And with him is a senior lawyer, senior advocate of Nigeria, Jibrin Okutepa. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on tonight.
Thank you so much for the
I know senior advocate is one that does not agree with the position of the Senate based on, because I saw what you wrote and you said it was unconstitutional. Honorable, your colleagues there are not happy with what happened. It does look like, from the way he spoke, like the majority in the House bullied them into the decision of what happened today. Why was it so important that the House took the stand today without the presence of the opposition in the House?
Let me once again thank you for giving me the opportunity to be on this platform, especially when an issue that is very germane and very critical to our democratic process is under the discourse. In the first place, one good thing about parliamentary proceedings, you just cannot shy away from the set down rules and regulations. And we always have our Bible on court. This is our Bible, this is our Quran, as far as proceedings in the parliament are concerned.
The standing orders of the House.
The standing orders
Senate
of the House.
As there also.
Yes, and if you go to a larger extent, you also have the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria being the supreme document that must guide what we do on the floor of the House of Representatives. I think in the first place, I would like to make it clear that the disposition against which the so-called opposition walked out of the chamber today, I think was coming from the backdrop of the fact that, oh, they had a confused day in the last day, the last day we sat, in the previous day, when we discussed the issue of the PIB, where we had to suspend and adjourn consideration on the PIB because of the controversial 3 or 5% of the production cost be given to the host communities. From there, I want to believe that our colleagues, respected colleagues of the opposition, were thrown into like issue crisis, into confusion, and since then they are never backed into their normal disposition. In the first place, like I said, when you have set down rules to operate with, anybody trying to cut corners will not have his way. Not even the principal officer or the presiding officer who is sitting in the chair to preside over the business of that day does not have that right to cut corners against our set down rules. In the first place, it is not in the opinion of any member on the floor of the House, and it cannot be taken as in the opinion of perhaps the fourth estate of the realm, you people of the media who look after us while in proceedings. It has always been the opinion of the presiding officer in the chair that take the lead. Whatever is in the opinion of the chair, in his own understanding, by our own rules, must set the standard for each and every one of us to follow. And I want to say, I'm not under oath here, but as a communicator, trained communicator, I know what it means to dispel crisis, to dispel rumor professionally. I want to say, under able moral commitment, that clause 52 has been taken. We have taken clause 53. We have taken clause 54. We have taken 55.
Let's break it down.
And that is exactly the position of the presiding officer.
Let's break it down.
And for you, no, let me get.
I don't want us to lump the issues together. I want us to be able to tackle them one after the other.
I'm sorry.
So let's clear. When you say clause 52, just a moment, Honorable. Okay. When you say clause 52 was taken, clause 52 is so touchy because that's the reason why the presiding officer, the Speaker of the House, when he went back into the chair, said yesterday that you're going to invite INEC and invite NCC. Only that we saw NCC, we did not see INEC today. And that was the basis on which you did not take clause 52. That's the assumption. That's what we saw. It was live on TV yesterday. But at what point did you take clause 52?
While in the committee of the whole, where the Speaker, with due respect, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, was not presiding. At the committee of the whole, where the deputy speaker by our rules is the chairman of that committee. And it is in the opinion of that same chairman of that committee that we have taken 54, 53, 55. And whether you like it or not, it's not as if you cannot get out of it. You can, for purposes of consensus and understanding, be able to readdress it. But you can only come by our orders, rules of the House. Order 9, sub rule 1, sub 6 says it shall be out of order for anybody to bring back a matter upon which a decision has already been taken by the House, except upon a substantive motion or notice.
So when did you take it? Was it yesterday or today?
We took it yesterday.
When? At what point? Because I was monitoring.
Of course, so you have your record. Confusion. My brother, you have your record on the videos. You bring them back, just like you brought up this other video clips.
What we try to do on the program is to... Politics can be very, very confusing.
Yes.
But what we try to do is to break it down so that our viewers can understand. Because what led to the disagreement yesterday, and the House went into what was rowdy, and the Speaker went back into the chair, and you're supposed to go on recess yesterday, but you now said it's extraordinary for you to even sit today as a Friday. The reason why you start today, so that you can take it from where you stopped. What caused the rowdy session was clause 52. So I'm wondering what exactly, when did you take the clause 52?
You know, when you are going on with the proceedings, some members may not want to even listen because they have a biased disposition already. And that is the position of the PDP members. In this case, I want to say PDP members, because I can agree and bet you that a lot of other opposition members, members of the PRP, members of the ABGA, were still seated on the floor of the House. This is to do with the over-exuberance of the desperate PDP members on the floor of the House in the name of opposition, just walking out on the floor. I want to tell you.
Why did they do that? Why do you think they did that?
As they did that because they could not get it. Because that is democracy. When democracy works, nobody can outsmart it.
Because
my friend, let me also put it to
you. Leader, there's a notion that your party, that's the allegation from the opposition, that the grand plan is to rig the election in 2023.
Nobody has any...
That's what the PDP said.
Nobody has any intention or has any contemplation to rig the election. We have never rigged the election in the past. And we will never contemplate rigging same in the next election. We will always be guided by the rules of the game.
Okay,
as far
so
as election is
quickly,
concerned.
Honorable,
let me take this point.
Yeah, so let me...
it's a good point. It's a good point. Okay. The point I wanted to make is that it's for Nigerians to know that obviously some of them who did not listen well never knew that we have carried Section 52, Sub 2. So we have carried that. And when we now invited INEC, let me say it on records, we invited INEC, my brother, for simple academic exercise. We have passed that stage. And perhaps it will be useful maybe another day.
Well, INEC did not show up.
INEC and NCC.
NCC showed up, but INEC did not.
INEC, for obvious reason, they later complained and they asked to be rescued because they are what you call an umpire. You won't allow them to come and begin to preempt their position.
Right,
but that exercise for today was merely academic.
So what did you pass on clause 52? Clause 52 has to do with electronic voting and transmission.
Not electronic voting, electronic transmission.
Yes.
So and what they failed to understand, Sheun, is the fact that there was even no basis whatsoever to discuss clause 52, because what is contained in clause 52 as it is today and then was simply the recommendation of the House Committee on Electoral Matters as obtained through public hearings among all the stakeholders in the country, stakeholders in the election process. So when you now give your confidence to the electorate to come and interact with you in the course of public hearing, showing we do not have to in any way undermine or abuse that confidence. For someone, after obtaining the confidence and the contributions of other stakeholders through public hearing, and you now come in the process of consideration to abuse or undermine the consent or the take of other stakeholders, will be the least an abuse to our parliamentary process. We do not intend to make laws that will be injusticiable. We do not intend to make laws that cannot be practicable. So what it is contained today, it is the same provision.
All right. What does it say?
It simply says that INEC, mode of voting, mode of procedure of voting, that section 52, 2 again, it simply says that INEC shall be allowed to determine, INEC may be allowed to determine the mode and procedure of election. And under the column of remarks, it says clearly that this subsection or this section of the Electoral Act has also allowed INEC the leverage to decide to take either electronic or manual procedure of voting. We have given the discretion to INEC. But what the so-called opposition under the platform of PDP wanted to make is to replace that may by shall.
Which is a must.
Which is a must. We cannot compel INEC under the circumstances of lawmaking. That's the position now.
So because
they don't understand what we are speaking. My brother, the problem we will continue to face is this. Most of my colleagues, respected colleagues in the PDP opposition, have had the opportunity to school abroad in America and England. So they cannot be able to even understand the kind of English we are speaking here in Kano and Ibadan. They don't understand. And that same kind of English we use in legislation.
The confusion that led to that rowdy session yesterday.
Yes. Was out of misunderstanding, misrepresentation.
And perhaps they accused the deputy speaker, who was the presiding of the chair of the committee on this particular motion, of not listening to them, of not doing the job properly. Those are the accusations. I
don't want us to go to that.
Just a moment. The question is, a lot of Nigerians will be wondering, at what point did you take clause 52? Is it when that rowdy session and when everybody was rowdy and people were throwing blows on the floor? Was that when it was taken?
My brother, whether the session was rowdy or not, as long as the mace is in place, the chair presiding over is in the chair, the chairman presiding is in the chair, nobody takes away any credibility from the process of our legislation.
Let me bring
it. Means the same thing. And it has to be substantive. And the only way you can get that back or reversed again is by coming on a substantive motion on notice, which they have not done.
Honorable, it's fair enough to...
Even for those who are agitating, my brother, agitating for electronic voting, the option has been provided for, but they never cared to listen and understand what's going on.
Okay. Leader, it's fair enough for us now to bring the senior advocate of Nigeria, because the reason why we bring Mr. Jibrin Okutapa in is to give us a sense of what the law says. You're not the only one who reacted yesterday to what happened in the Senate, and perhaps now what has happened today on the floor of the House. In the statement you released, you said that the reason for the rejection is not surprising because majority of politicians cannot win free and fair elections. The governor of Sokoto State said yesterday that the position and the passage of that clause 52 is unconstitutional. Do you still hold that position?
Well, Shehu, first of all, let me thank you for bringing me. And it can only take somebody like you to bring me here.
Thank you for the honor.
Because it appears to me that we major in minor in Nigeria. I do not see how the clause 52 of the electoral bill, proposed electoral bill of the National Assembly, when passed and assented to, can withstand the constitutional validity of the of Nigeria Constitution. And I say this because, one, INEC is a creation of Nigerian Constitution, and Section 153, subsection 1F of the 1999 Constitution created INEC. And under the schedule to the Constitution, the third schedule, Part 1, item number 15, INEC has been given a constitutional mandate, 1, to organize, undertake, and supervise all elections to the office of the president, governor, vice president, and so on and so forth, including, of course, the office of the honorable member sitting by my left-hand side here. Now, Section 78 of the Electoral Act 2010 as amended, also giving INEC the power, Section 78 of the Constitution, has also given INEC power to conduct elections. And you cannot subject the power of INEC to any other person, including the National Assembly, or the President, or NCC. Now, what is the purport of this clause 52 they're talking about? That INEC will first of all have to do transmission and then make reference to the Nigerian Communication Commission to see whether or not there is a network coverage for which, if that is okay, then you now go back to the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for approval. From what I read, I may be wrong, before you can. But in any case, do we need even a law to talk about transmission of election result? And I say we don't, because our courts have recognized the power of INEC to issue guidelines, regulations, and manual. And the Supreme Court has on several occasions upheld the power of INEC to have recourse to its manual in either declaring election inconclusive or in postponing elections or in cancelling elections, because that power to issue regulation has been given by INEC. Now, the only problem that we have in Nigeria, and for me, which with the greatest respect to our judiciary, has caused this kind of brouhaha or political halabaloo that we are finding our honorable member appearing to be almost exchanging blows, is because the court had not allowed the fine ideas introduced by what is called smart card readers machine, which was introduced in 2019 election. And under that law, under that guideline that INEC issued, INEC says where a smart card reader malfunctions, election in that polling unit should be suspended until a replacement is given. Now, when you put a smart card reader's report vis-a-vis the manual election, that is where politicians capitalize on by the decision of the court to say, oh, because certain provisions of the Constitution talk about you have voters who have to queue, you issue them ballot papers, then you have to tick the voters register, then manual for accreditation is not recognized. With the greatest respect, if INEC has the power to issue guidelines, and the guideline includes that accreditation be done by smart card that report, I do not see any sound jurisprudential reasons in a democracy where rule of law supposed to be that INEC power relating to smart card reader should be nullified.
Okay, so just take a we need to take a breather in a moment. When we come back, you define to us some aspect of this which is confusing for some people, and which also led some senators also to feel bad about the state of things. But we need to take a break. And we come back. My guest here will continue in that conversation. Then after that conversation, we'll also touch on the Anambra governorship election matter. Mr. Festus Okoye will join us to shed more light on the list of candidates released for the election. There seems to be some surprises. Well, we'll get details after this break, everyone. It's been a conversation. Even when we went on that break, we were having that conversation. Let's continue with it. Mr. Okotepa, so you think that we don't even need a law, since there is a law allowing INEC to use the smart card reader? The same law that...
There is a law
for the smart card reader.
That gives INEC to issue guidelines, regulations, and manual for the conduct of the election.
And conduct the election as they deem fit.
As they deem fit, in aid of its constitutional mandate to organize, regulate, and conduct election to the offices. Now, the version that my views was founded on is the version of the Senate. And if the Honorable says here that their positions are in tandem with me, then what it means, therefore, is that what they need to do is to look for the provisions of Section 49 or so of the Electoral Act that has created an 18th century procedures of election in 21st century. What does it say? It said you come to the polling unit, present yourself, the presiding officer look at you and tick the manual. So the court is saying, look, as long as there is a provisions for the ticking of manual of voters, then you cannot use smart card reader. For me, with the greatest respect, I do not think that that is correct. Because if the constitution, if the law permits INEC to issue guidelines, manual, and regulation for the conduct of the election, and the Supreme Court had upheld the sanctity and the legality of INEC manual in some election, beginning, for instance, in Kogi, for instance, despite the clear provisions of the Nigerian Constitution, how a governor should emerge, the INEC said that election was inconclusive. The same thing with the election in Kano. INEC says the election was inconclusive. The same thing with the election in Sokoto. The same thing with the election in Osu. INEC said the election was inconclusive. And all of these things are based on the decisions of the Supreme Court upholding the sanctity of INEC manual.
You find a fault in what the Senate did, because part of what the Senate has relied on is that NCC, the Nigerian National Communications Commission, INEC will have to consult NCC and the National Assembly approval before going ahead to transmit the result. That's where you have a problem.
I have a problem there, because that means that you are subjecting the constitutional mandate and duty of INEC to organize elections, regulate the elections to a third party. And I said that itself is unconstitutional, because you can't do so. The Constitution does not allow you to do so. And only INEC and only INEC can regulate how election is to be done.
Isn't that going to cause a constitutional crisis?
How?
I mean, because it's an act of parliament,
for instance,
which relied on the ground norm as its root. So if the National Assembly has proposed, because I don't know what will happen in the House, are you going to harmonize in that direction?
That is what I want to explain. What I'm trying to explain is the fact that it's like my learned colleague is shooting in the wrong direction.
I'm based on what I read in the Senate.
I am in the first place.
You didn't, yesterday you said you made a consideration.
Can I talk,
today some people walked out. And for me, I see what is going on as a comedy show, with the greatest respect.
Can you allow me to take the time, please?
Yes, sir.
I think in the case of the House of Representatives, of course, I do not have the locus standi or the gut here to indict my colleagues in the Senate. And for me, till this moment, I don't know what the version the Senate has. But in the House of Representatives, where I serve as the leader of the 9th House of Representatives, in recognition of the fact that we have the ground norms, the supreme document we call the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to which we all have to respect, every piece of legislation will only be secondary to the provision of the Constitution. And in that regard, our own provision with respect to 52.2 is that, if I may read quickly, is that voting at an election under this act shall be in accordance with the procedure determined by the Independent National Electoral Commission. This is a new insertion. This goes to prove to you that the House of Representatives is working in tandem with the provision of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And by our remarks here, we said voting at an election and transmission of result under this bill shall be in accordance with the procedure determined by the Commission itself. And look at our remarks. Whether by
did you add electronic? Is there a provision for electronic?
That's what I'm saying. Whether by electronic, manual, or any other technological device, that is left for INEC to determine the practicability of doing this, if I may read. Electronic voting and any other technological device as practicably as is possible. It's like we have given the INEC that constitutional protection.
And then with the,
so as far as I'm concerned,
so, sir.
As far as I'm concerned, I'm coming. Even the so-called walking out of the members of the opposition or the PDP members out of the floor of the House was unfounded. It was unnecessary because the arguments they said they came out to protect is already contained in the submission of the Electoral Act Committee, which was submitted. And that is exactly what we have carried. And we have carried this with all respect and sanctity because we know this is an extraction coming out from our engagements with stakeholders in the election process, democratic election process. And we cannot come down on the floor of the House of Representatives only to undermine what we got through a public hearing process. That's our position.
I thank the Honourable.
I think we will come to the point when perhaps after transmission our versions, where we now realize that we have discrepancies between the Senate version and the House version. The procedure is still spelled out.
Because a lot of Nigerians
will come up with a conference committee. The conference committee will get there, meet with the Senate counterpart, and at the end, every superior argument or every superior version that is reflected on the basis of the overall interest of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in the best of conduct of electoral process will be held sacrosanct.
Because a lot of Nigerians have this feeling that that's the position of your party, APC, that you are shying away from electronic transmission of results.
And what's wrong about that? If that is the position of my party, APC, what's wrong about it?
That you are shying away from electronic transmission of results.
Of course, why should I not shine from a process that will deprive our people from getting the access to even vote, the right to franchise?
But they've used the...
Let me tell you, for instance, if you listen to the NCC person, he has told us that as long as this thing will be reflected on the basis of the network coverage in Nigeria, we have over 49.3% of Nigerian population not covered by network.
Just a moment.
And that will amount to absolute disenfranchisement.
Honorable.
So for me, it is a political matter. I will not shy away from it.
Yes, I know.
My party is not very well.
Thank God that you...
It's not quite...
that you agree that it's a political matter.
And we must fight it to the end.
If the producer can put on the manner of voting...
Because my party will not allow a situation in the first place where Nigerians are disenfranchised,
we've used smart card readers in this country for at least 2 elections, major national election cycle.
Even at then, we still had issues. And those are the issues we want to make sure we get out of them through our electoral process. I want to tell you that what we are doing may be seen as APC position, but it is being done in the overall interest of this country.
Do you think that the popularity of Nigerians like the position of your party?
Oh, definitely, yes. That is why the party keeps on shining, and we continue to receive members of the opposition into our great party. My brother, if you draw, I will bet you to draw 2023 to the next week. You will see what happens in this country. Nigerians will definitely go for the ruling party. The APC remains the party to beat. Take it or not.
All right, we'll wait for that time in 2023. Because it's a long time. You know, like they say in politics, 2 days, a day, 24 hours is a long time in politics.
That is not there in the dictionary of the APC.
Mr. Okitepa.
It's not there in the dictionary of our party, the APC. 2 days to election is 2 days to election and nothing more.
Mr. Okitepa, you wanted to say something.
I'm not a politician. First of all, let me commend the Honorable Majority Leader. The version he has read, which says INEC should determine the mode of election, what is to be done and what is to use, is good for enough. But they should go back if they have not tinkered with Section 49, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act 2010 as amended. They should go back because Section 49, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act 2010 is what the courts have been using to say the use of a smart card reader is not allowed in the Electoral Act. And what does it say? It said the presiding officer shall, on being satisfied that the name of the person is on the register of voter, issue to him a ballot paper and indicate on the register that the person has voted. And so the court is saying, look, there is no express provision for the use of smart card reader report, even though the same court has recognized the constitutionality and the legality of INEC manual. So my view, therefore, is that if you say INEC should determine, then Section 49, subsection 2 should also be removed, the word subject to that provision of the Constitution act should be removed.
If not, there will be a conflict.
Otherwise, the court will still say, if INEC wakes up today and say, we
need to wrap up now. Yeah,
I think we are using electronic
my take about his own opinion is that, in the first place, his own view was that we need not to have any supplementary legislation.
I didn't say so.
That was what I
didn't say so. So for him to say, contradiction. For him to say, there will be a contradiction now.
That was
if it's passed from 49, section 49(2) and section 52.
Okay. But my last take, Sheun, is the fact that yes, what we have done so far in the House of Representatives is done in the best interest of Nigerian people, and we must also acknowledge some of the basic peculiarities we have as a nation. Our exposure to technological development, what we can afford and what we cannot afford. If in the country of the United States today, as developed as the United States, if in countries like United Kingdom, you still have issues about insecurity, cyber insecurity. Other people coming to hack into the cyber system. Definitely, INEC cannot be spared. So in a situation whereby you have issues, you have concerns, we will never allow our election process to be exposed. You see, I agree with you. I agree with you when you said, Barrister, I agree with you when you rightly said that you are not a politician. But I'm afraid the way you are acting, you act like a PDP member.
I'm not. In fact, I've been accused of being a APC member.
You are acting like a PDP member.
I'm your lawyer. I'm a lawyer of PDP. So I am a Nigerian that needs... Look, the kind of gunshot democracy that manual election is encouraging in Nigeria, democracy is not even being practiced.
We need to. You did not answer.
Nigerian people. Sovereignty does not belong to Nigerian people.
You did not answer my question because opposition is saying that you wanted to rig election in 2023.
You can't accuse me of being a member of PDP.
You can't.
PDP say I'm a member of APC.
We do not have that
intention. I'm a Nigerian with patriotic zeal.
We do not have that intention, Sheun, to rig any election. We are only set, ready, muscularly, and by all standards to win election.
We are
set to win election. And that is why even before 2023,
and there's no
you see governors, you see members, you see senators coming in for succeeding APC.
Yeah, we need to thank you so much.
Zonk into the system.
Majority Leader of the House, Honorable Al-Hassan
Adonogwa.
Thank you.
PDP and APC. What is the ideology of the
Mr. Jibrin Ogutafa, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Thank you so much indeed for shedding light on some of these issues. Well, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, today has released a list of candidates that will participate in the Anambra governorship election and has omitted former Central Bank of Nigeria's governor, Charles Soludo, as well as the People's Democratic Party from the candidates list for the Anambra governorship election. But APGA, as a political party, has been talking. Take a listen to a factional chairman of APGA, Chief Victor Oye, at a press conference today about the situation relating to the governorship list released today by INEC. Take a listen to Chief Victor Oye.
We submitted the particulars of our candidate on July 2. It was the end on July 9. INEC received it the same July 2 and acknowledged it. According to the Electoral Act, INEC was supposed to have published that name 7 days after receiving it, which means should have published it on the 9th. Now the question is, why did INEC wait? Why was INEC waiting? Are you getting me? Till 16th, which is today, because the information we got was that INEC delayed it today so that they will issue nomination papers, documents to a stranger, an alien, some people alien to APGA, to issue particulars to the forms and everything, for them to fill and return the same today and the name published the same day. That is unacceptable.
There's so much reaction since INEC today released the list of candidates for the November 6th poll. It instead listed a member of the House of Representatives from another faction of APGA, Chukwuma Umeoji, as a flag bearer as against Soludo, the former CBN governor. and the PDP's name was obviously omitted out of that. Mr. Festus Okoye, the man who released that statement today, is joining me here, is the National Commissioner with INEC. Thank you so much, Mr. Okoye, for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's get straight to it. I don't want to drag you into the transmission or no transmission, because at this point, INEC should be left out and allow them to wait until everything is cleared. Anambra is a major issue. You released that statement today. Why is PDP obviously out of that list?
Well, in relation to the PDP, we had 2 court orders regarding the nomination processes of the party. One of the court orders came from a suit filed by one Honorable Genevieve Ekwochi. In this particular order, the commission was asked to maintain the status quo and not to do anything that will truncate the matter that was filed in court. Then thereafter, we also received another court order from the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory. And this, the suit hearing was filed by Valentine Ozigbo, who said he was the claimant applicant against the People's Democratic Party and the Independent National Electoral Commission. And he asked for various orders relating to the governorship election primaries in Anambra State. And the court refused all the orders he asked for, or almost all the orders. First of all, he asked for an interim order of this honorable court restraining the first defendant. The first defendant hearing is the People's Democratic Party from tampering with the name of the claimant applicant already submitted to the second defendant, that is the Independent National Electoral Commission, as his candidate for the Anambra State governorship election fixed for 6th November 2021, is hereby refused and dismissed. He also asked for an interim order of injunction mandating the second defendant, that is the Independent National Electoral Commission, to publish the name of the claimant already submitted to it as a candidate of the first defendant. The court also refused and dismissed that. But the court granted an accelerated hearing of the motion. So in relation to the PDP, we acted on the basis of the court order that asked us to maintain the status quo. And the status quo in this case was the fact that we received the names of the governorship candidate and deputy governorship candidate, but the court asked us not to proceed, not to publish, and therefore we did not publish the name of any candidate.
So which candidate did you receive? Because I know by the Constitution and the Electoral Act, it mandates INEC to relate to the National Working Committee of the party in relation to the governorship primary. So which one did you receive? Who did you relate with?
We related with the National Executive Committee of the party. It was the national chairman of the PDP that was given the access code, and they submitted the name of Valentine Ozigbo as their candidate. And that is the candidate that we have. But the court said, do not publish
until the hearing has been satisfied and the lawsuit has been cleared.
Exactly.
I understand that there was a sitting in Awka today. There was another court order that we received. We receive as much court orders as you receive. Trust me. The interesting thing is that there is the Chris Uba faction and there is the NWC faction of the party in Anambra State as we speak. So which of the primaries did you monitor?
Well, we monitored the primaries for which notice was given to us. And it was the primaries that produced the Valentine Ozigbo that the commission monitored, because based on the law, it is the National Executive Committee of the party that gives us notice. And the National Executive Committee of the party, in this case, is the executive represented by the National Chairman and National Secretary. And they gave us notice and we monitored their primaries.
So before we go into ABGA, because ABGA is another issue, there is a deadline for the submission of names.
Yes.
Should these cases or the cases that we have as a case where or is be concluded, would INEC be able to entertain any names on the list?
No, there are two issues here. The period given in our timetable and schedule of activities for the submission of the names of candidates, which is backed by the Electoral Act, has elapsed. And that is the 9th day of July 2021. Within that particular window that we gave, the party submitted the name of a candidate. Now, if at the end of the day, the court makes a determination that the candidate whose name was submitted is not the candidate of the party, and the court gives us an order in relation to another validly nominated candidate. Of course, under Section 287 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Commission is duty-bound to give effect to orders from validly constituted, from properly constituted court of law. But in terms of a political party submitting list at this moment, the period has passed and you cannot submit anymore. So
with what we're seeing, and the potential is very strong, yes, that the court can ask for another primaries.
The period given in our timetable and schedule of activities for the conduct of primaries has elapsed. And
because there is a possibility, should that happen? No.
The courts operate on the basis of existing law. They operate on the basis of constitutional provisions. And by the provisions of the Electoral Act, we have already, the period for primaries had already been concluded.
Okay.
So we are now within the ambit and within the purview of the publication of the personal particulars of duly nominated candidates, and that was what we did today.
In the case of ABGA, Professor Soludo, which is of the Chief Victor Oye faction, yes, Chief Victor Oye said, Judo Keke is not even a member of their party. How come his name is on the list? That's the question that the Victor Oye faction is asking. But it does look at that's the name that you have on your list.
Well, you see, as a commission, we do not look for a comb with which to comb the membership list of each political party to determine who is a member and who is not a member. In relation to ABGA, we acted on the basis of 2 court orders. There was a court order that emanated from the High Court of Justice of Kano State, that's, of Jigawa State, that sat in Birnin Kudu, which affirmed that Chief
Judo
Keke was the valid acting national chairman of the party. And in that in fact, it is a judgment. In that judgment, the commission was mandated to relate with the Judo Keke as an acting national chairman, and also to give recognition and cognizance to any party primaries he organized or conducted under the law.
So that's the basis.
And
it's still valid. And it's not been upturned.
It has not been upturned because if you look at the Victor Oye has approached the same court, asking the court to vacate that particular court order and give it leave to appeal as an interested party.
Interesting times.
Yeah, so as far as this commission is concerned, we have a constitutional responsibility to obey court orders. We are not going to get into the fray. If a court order comes tomorrow saying the candidate that we have published his or her name is not the valid candidate and another candidate's name is given by virtue of the judgment of a court or by virtue of a court order, we will definitely comply.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Festus Okoye, sometimes I just imagine what you guys go through at INEC. I can't equate it with the kind of job that we have. We are under pressure and intense heat every time of the day. But thank you so much for clearing the air and giving us insight into what you're doing and the reasons behind the list that you gave today. Thank you so much indeed. Yeah. Well, you've heard Mr. Festus Okoye, National Commissioner of INEC, on that list. We look forward to what's happening on the list ahead of the November 6th election. But that's how we close the show tonight. Many thanks for watching, everyone. Till I see you again on Sunday. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Shion Kimbale. Bye-bye.